snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so I am here today to do a book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is actually two books. It's a bind-up, and it is the final bind-up in the Riyria Revelations series, which is by Michael J Sullivan. This one is called Heir of Novron, but it actually contains WINTERTIDE and PERCEPLIQUIS. I think that's how you say it, I'm not really sure. I actually loved this book, and it kind of solidified Michael J Sullivan as one of my all-time favourite authors. He's excellent at writing, and this book proves exactly why, because it takes so many ties and ties them off beautifully. It brings in characters from the first book. It really makes everything wonderful, and I absolutely loved this book. So let's get into it. WINTERTIDE is the first one in the bind-up, so we'll talk about that one first. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. It was definitely a 5-star book straight away, and I really thought it was a step up from the previous books. The books in the second bind-up definitely felt like a step up from the first bind-up, but this one definitely felt like a step up from the second bind-up. I loved the change of setting, I loved the change of tone, and the pacing was excellently done, definitely intriguing, and kept me wanting to read on more and keep going into the night, and I loved it so much. It definitely felt like this was a more serious and more action-packed, and the characters had a bigger role to play. They had more decisions that they needed to make, and those decisions affected more things. More people were involved in what was going to happen if their decisions were wrong, and I loved that. We are once again following the main characters of Hadrian, Royce, Modena and Arista. They are our 4 major players in this series, and as we go through, they each develop their own personalities. By this point, we really know them quite well, but we get to learn a lot more about them in this book, and we definitely get to see a lot more backstory, which I really loved. Royce is really challenged in this book. He has kind of this idea of what he thinks his life is going to be, and that idea is really severely tested in this book. He has to face some new challenges that he never anticipated, and he definitely has to kind of sit back and evaluate his life at points in this book and figure out where he wants it to go and what he's going to do to get to that point. He believes that he's finally found happiness, and he believes that he's going to be, you know, all happy and everything's going to be jolly. But of course that's not really the case, and things definitely go wrong, and he's definitely put in some situations that he never could have anticipated. There are a fair amount of complications he has to face, such as finding the Heir of Novron, as the title would suggest. He also has to try and save a friend, try and stop the Empire from taking over. No big deal. All of the characters are in a situation where they don't know who to trust, because we have some characters who definitely seem to be manipulative, and we don't know if they're trustworthy or whether they might be working for someone else secretly. There's a lot of betrayal in this, and it's really hard trying to work out who is good and who is bad, and I love that. Hadrian really became such a great character for me in this book. I thought he was a really wonderful character before, but in this book he was so solidified. He was tested, he had to go to court, and he had to put on a new persona, and he had to become someone different, and he had to fit into that situation, which is a very awkward situation to be put in, and he did it so well. He was so brilliant at it. I loved seeing him evolve. I loved seeing him try and fit in with these social situations that he wasn't really anticipating, and he was just such a wonderful character. His storyline is definitely one of the more prominent ones in WINTERTIDE, and I really liked seeing that, because up until this point we haven't known an awful lot about Hadrian and Royce, and we really get to see a bit more about them in this story. He also has some excellent moments of humour and fun, and it's just so good to read about him. Arista wasn't actually a prominent character in WINTERTIDE as much as she has been in some of the other books, but she still has a role. She is kind of stuck in a situation that she got herself into at the end of the second bind-up. Therefore, for most of the book she's still in that situation, and she's trying to figure a way out of it. So we don't see a lot of her travelling around or anything like that, but I still felt like we did get a bit of development on her character, and I still enjoy her character a lot. I really felt like Modena had a lot of character progression over the course of this book. She really grew into an empress that we could love and adore and see why people would revere, And I loved that. I loved that she was such a great character by the end of this, and we really connected with her on a new level. I think her storyline was definitely one of the more heart-wrenching and emotional, and I loved seeing her as a character grow into herself and become what we always wanted her to be. Some of the other characters who I enjoy seeing is Amelia. I love her character Nimbus, who is kind of an assistant to the Empress. He's really awesome. Brecton and Mintz and the Duchess Rochelle, all of them are great characters in their own right. Although they don't have major roles, they all have interesting little quips, they all have interesting funny scenes where they come in, and I loved seeing each of them in their own kind of element. The story was definitely the craziest one by far, and I loved it. It was action-packed, and the dynamics of the Empire and who was in charge was kind of tested over the course of this, so I really loved seeing that. So let's move on to book number 6, the final one, which is called PERCEPLIQUIS. I think, I'm not sure if that's exactly how you say it, so apologies if that is wrong, but I will put it on the screen so you guys know what I'm talking about. Book 6 was the best by far in the whole series because it tied everything together. It brought every string that I thought, oh, maybe we won't see how that finishes up. It brought everything together and it tied everything off. It was so well done. Some of the stuff may not have been the most convincing way, but it was so well tied together that it was really believable. I loved seeing how everything interconnected, and this story was so filled with action and awesomeness that I cannot even describe to you guys how much I loved it. I just loved it so much. So there were so many different plot arcs, there were so many different character developments that go on in this story. We get to see a lot of the backstory of Hadrian and Royce, we get to see a lot of the other characters as they grow into the characters we always want them to be, and we just see so many awesome and terrible things happen in this. There are so many ups and downs of one thing happening and another thing happening, and it's so action-packed, but it doesn't feel rushed, it doesn't feel like it was bad. I just loved it. It really connected with me as a reader. I felt like I was just in love with these characters by this point, because by this point we've read 5 books with these characters and we know them and we are rooting for them and we want to know where their stories are going to go. By this point I was in love with the characters, and this story just cemented that so much for me. Everything that we've seen building and developing over the course of the series, everything that we've seen hints of, is finally solidified, confirmed, brought together, and we get to see so many awesome things happening at once that it was just amazing. It was a massive step up from all of the other books. I gave book 5, Wintertide, a 5 stars, but this one I would give a 6 stars if I could, because it was that good. I just loved it. Everything was so intense, the action was amazing, it was all cleverly interwoven and really, really beautifully done. We see reappearances of old characters, we see plots that we didn't anticipate being tied off, we see plot twists all the time that I just didn't think were going to happen but made total sense, and I kicked myself like, why didn't I get that? But it was so good. I loved it. I am so happy that there are 2 other Riyria books, the Riyria Chronicles, and I believe there's a 3rd one that will be coming out soon as well, because I need to read more about Hadrian and Royce. I'm going to be really upset when I don't have any other books in this world to read, because it's just so fun. I loved it, and I think he's such a brilliant writer that I'll definitely be picking up everything else he publishes in the next few years, because I know he's got a lot of books coming out over the next few years, and I definitely want to get on board and read them, because this was so well done. It was so much better than I was expecting, and obviously I loved the books already, so I already was expecting a high standard, but this was just way above that, and I loved it. We get to see some of the characters we've met before, and we get to see their identities, we get to see their real motivations, we get to see whether they're creepy and sneaky, and we get to see so much drama between them. We see fights, we see wars, we see action, we see adventure, duels, we see lost cities. It's just so crazy and wonderful. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I wish this book had never ended. I loved it so much. I thought it was really, really, really engaging. It was definitely one that I raced through when I had the chance to sit down and read it. I didn't want to put it down. I wanted to just sit and read until the end, and I loved it. I did it as a buddy read with loads of other people who are linked down below, but we had such a great time talking about it, and it was just so much fun to get together and discuss what we thought was going to happen, and then discuss what actually happened, which was usually completely different and so surprising and so much fun. So I would highly recommend this series to you guys. If you've not read it, definitely give it a go. Even if the first book isn't quite what you think, the development across this series is so brilliantly done. that I have no doubt you'll enjoy the first, and by the end you will love the characters so much that you'll love the whole series. And I cannot wait to pick up the 2 Riyria Chronicles books, which hopefully I will be doing in April because they're back at home and I need to go get them from my mum's. But I really, really cannot wait to read this and pick this up very, very soon. So definitely let me know your thoughts if you've read this series. Let me know what you think of the Riyria Chronicles books. And I would love to have a discussion with you guys in the comments, so leave me comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat.